One of the things that I really miss about the UK is the breakfast. Now, I know that British food has a ghastly reputation, and I have to admit, it's largely deserved, quite frankly. However, there's nothing quite like a full English breakfast, whether it be fuel for a hard day of labor, a comforting meal to ward off a dreary day, or a cure for an epic hangover. The meal is a celebration of breakfast. It is breakfast as feast. Also known as the full Monty or the fry-up, the meal has become refined into a foundational set of ingredients. Eggs, bacon, sausage, mushrooms, tomatoes, beans, toast. In New York, British chef April Bloomfield is reforming the way that people feel about English food. And in my opinion, she's serving up one of the best versions of the breakfast anywhere on earth.
Let's do this thing. Ready, doesn't it?
This is like salvation descending upon the table.
You can make this into an elegant dish, precise, just the most perfect way to set up your day.
They say it's the most important meal of the day.
Exactly.
This might be the most important meal of your life. Another great British tradition, of course, is tea.
Nice pot of tea.
All right, well, chin chin.
Yeah, chin chin, babe. Happy New Year. Look at you and your little pinky finger.
Well, I mean, it's, we're on video here. We've got to be sophisticated.
Oh, darling.
Good. Okay.
Great.
So, I think the bean, again, is one of those things that, everyone outside of Britain thinks must be on a full English breakfast, but there's plenty of people that don't like beans.
Exactly. I have to say, I'm not a huge fan of Heinz baked beans because, beans can be quite flat. But if it's done really well, it's actually, it's a good thing to have at the beginning of the day, set you up, a few vinegary beans. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt.
Right, exactly.
It's like perfect,
All right, well, let's get in there and try these
Great,
things.
yes. So there's homemade sausage. So homemade for me is really important. It's pork shoulder, a little bit of belly, a little bit of breadcrumb, because it keeps all the fat in there. The bread kind of absorbs all that flavor.
So tell me about the black puddings. You're making that with pig's blood.
Totally pig's blood, a little bit of salted back fat, onions, a little bit of sage, a little bit of marjoram, and some salt and pepper. It's really simple, just slowly cooked. My granddad and I used to eat cold black pudding from the fridge, not fried or anything, because it's already cooked.
It's already
poached.
cooked, exactly.
And it's so good, cold black pudding. The texture, you get this little snap. Because when your teeth go through the little fat, it's really good.
Well, and so much of this meal is sort of evocative, if you've grown up in England, of periods in your life, right? You remember the first time you were hungover when you were you were probably 21, but I was about 13.
Me too, I was 13, I wasn't 21. Wow, that's a rite of passage being drunk and hungover at 13.
And this is the ultimate cure for a hangover, because it just hits everything that you would want, right? Grease, fat, salt.
I don't like overly crispy bacon.
A lot of times in the UK, they'll use back bacon, which is not the same as this. This is called streaky bacon, which in the States, this is made from belly.
Yeah.
But in the UK, it's really more like a Canadian bacon.
Yeah, the Canadian bacon is usually the eye of the loin. My grandfather makes a great English breakfast. Actually, he used to own a cafe in Birmingham.
So this is a family tradition,
this
right?
This is exactly. My granddad. I remember my granddad on weekends making fry-ups. And he'd have the mushrooms work in, the tomatoes, fried egg, bacon. Just, I don't know. There's something very familiar and comforting about eating a full English breakfast.
This is on a different level. This is, to me, is the reason I moved to the States, right? It's because everything is better in the States, and sure enough, I found my platonic ideal of a breakfast is now not that far from my house. To watch more episodes of The Meat Show, click here now. I am here to try to bring the meat pie back to the States. Anne just cooks them in the back. She's going to bring them out. We're going to dissect them. We're going to talk about them. And most importantly, we're going to eat them.